Hello. Good morning. Not feeling awesome today. Youngest woke up at 5:30 and wouldn't go back to sleep. Uh, it really takes a toll on my day. But it's nice to see the impact is at least getting some attention. And what's great about that is that I'm getting feedback. And someone wrote about the props passing. So maybe we should create an example here. So if this counter store, let's simplify it. Props. Let's do count number. So it takes in account. It's going to be a little bit silly, but it's going to show what we mean here. And let's see, we don't care about this. We don't care about this, I think. Yeah, let's remove this. And let's the count is counter.count. Now the thing is, we're gonna provide this thing instead. A counter star provider. So we'll need to move this into its own component. Let's just call it counter function. Cool. And let's say that the count is 0. Actually, let's run this. So yarn dev. Now, what we are going to do is open this. It opens in. I want it open here. Okay, so now we have our counter. Now, what we're gonna do is a little bit silly, but initial count. Set initial count. Use state 0. And now we're gonna pass in an initial count here instead, and that's will work the same. But what if we allow you to change that count? So button, one click, set initial count to 5, for example. Change initial count. So what should happen now here is that if I go and change it, nothing happens. And that's kind of expected, because currently you rely on a key. And you need to remount the store for it to take in new props. So if I do this and then that, now it remounted the store, and now we have the new initial count. But there is a strong argument that these props coming into the store, they should actually be signals. So you wouldn't do props.count, you would do props.count like this. Yeah. And then what you could do is, if you wanted to, in this case, update the count, you could do something like this. Let's see. Well, I'm like exploring this. Like, does it actually make sense? So we would change the count to props.count. Yeah, so we could still have 0 here. But then we want to sync You know what? Maybe it would make more sense to allow the signal to take a signal. Does that make sense? Oh. So one thing is synchronizing a value, because you might be like, you might have a prop that does something and you say if props foo. You just want to do an effect inside your store, which is fine. But if you want that prop to be exposed as an actual signal, yeah, I think it makes, well, you know what, why even do this? Like, you do props out count, right? But now there's just two sources of updating the count. You might increase it from here, or you would change it from here. Now there's questions to be answered here. First of all, you have typing. So I guess it's perfectly fine to just say signal number, no biggie. The typing is fine. You could even have like type props, like signal props, and then you say count number. Like, we could even do something like that, but I don't think it really matters. Yeah, and sometimes the prop represents like an instance of something. So let's say you get like some kind of process here that's been resolved from some asynchronous flow. I can say signal process. And then you can just say process equals props process. So there's no, like, you don't want to observe that because it never changes. Yeah, this is interesting. You could also say that the props itself is a signal. So you would rather do props dot count like this, and you would say signal count. Let's say process. Like, you would do this instead. Dot process, and then yeah, because then if you actually want to re-expose it, then you would do this. Yeah, but then uh, yeah, I think maybe that makes sense. I forget about syntax here, but so what if you want, in this case, what if I want to update this count based on the outer count changing? Maybe I will only want to do that in certain conditions. So now I control the exposed count here, apart from the count coming in from. But we could do that if, yeah. We could do that here as well. Like I could say signal props count. Now I have my own count, and then I can go and look at the props count, and if something happens to it, yeah, like it's just a perspective of like, would you ever want to pass a prop into store and then just re-expose that as a signal on the store? I don't think so. And if you do, what you would do is you would create an effect that just says count props count. And then you could even just do this. It starts at 0, but now sync the count with the props count. I think that's more approachable. It makes more sense. Okay, let's try that, because there's some complexity to this. Let's see. And the complexity is the complexity is if we change this count to 5, maybe it will just work. No, it won't. So there's a challenge here, because okay, let me try to explain this. So given that we implemented that the store provider converts these props into signals, and then every time the store provider reconciles, we just update those signals, like literally in the component body of the store provider, we set the signals again and again. And if they are the same value, nothing happens. But if they actually change, it's a problem, because it will trigger observation, which means that React is currently reconciling the store provider and like the children. I think. Well, does it reconcile the children? Yeah, it does. Because it first reconciles this, and then reconciles this. And the problem is that we need to synchronously change that signal as this store provider reconciles. But we don't want to trigger observation, because then the counter will suddenly run like a set state. I think. But we can just try it. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, where's my mouse cursor? Okay. So how would this even work? Store provider. So here we have, let's see, here we get the props and we're extended props. Yeah, because I'm removing the children. Now, so what we would really need to do here is I guess we would just use a ref. So props signals use ref if no props props signals, I guess that's the right term. No prop signals dot current. We would go in and we would basically go through the props and create signals for them. Yeah, let's just implement it and play with it. So let's just do a simple thing for key in props. Prop signals key equals signal props key. Oh, sorry, prop signals. Oh. Const signals signals, and then prop signals current would be the signals. Whatever. Any. Now the thing is, if we already have prop signals current, what we rather want to do is go through. Well, we actually want to go through this regardless. The only question is, okay, I think we can just do this. No, we can't do this. Well, well, I guess we can. So, yeah, I think we can just do this. And then for... Yeah. Current equals... If we have it, we're just going to set it. Or we're going to create a signal. And then we'll drop all of this. So since we have to run through the signal props anyways every time, either to create a signal or update the signal, we're going to do this. And then okay, so we're gonna change it a little bit. We're gonna do it here instead, and we're gonna use extended props instead of... I'm not sure why I call it extended props though. Yes. Okay, I think that's it. Are you complaining to me? I wonder why it's complaining here and not. Element implicitly because of expression. Whatever. Okay. So... Oh, yeah. Fuck. So, yeah. So this is now we're seeing So problem now is that we're saying signal number, right? But we're not passing it as a signal number. So now we have to change, let's see, where's store provider? So props here is A, but it's not really A. It's we need to flatten the signals. And basically what we do then is for K in key of A, yeah, I think we kind of have to do this regardless. In key of A, K extends signal infer value, and then we need to do this. Yeah, so now we're getting the actual value. Let's see. Oops. Props.count is not a function. Okay, it's not. Maybe there's, oh, sorry. We should pass the actual prop signals. And this is wrong because why is it complaining? I don't really care. Let's just do, let's just do this. Internal libraries, they really have, oh, look at this. Props.count is not a function. Why isn't it a function? Prop signals current. Oh, sorry. Prop signals.current. Oh, maybe that was the issue with that. Oh. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now when we increase it. Yes, exactly. This is what I was talking about. Cannot update the component while rendering a different component. So this is the biggest issue. I'm just gonna always forget about this. Signal props. So one way to handle this is that we like we just set the value. But then the question is, when do we trigger observation? Like, because all changes to signals are like happening naturally now. But suddenly now it happens during reconciliation. But we could also use an effect instead of changing it synchronously. What that will cause is, yeah, maybe that's just fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. So what we rather want to do here is use effect, and then we get the props here. So if the props change, yeah, so then we have to move back to our other logic. So if no props signals current, we go through this and we create the signals. And then whenever the props change, it doesn't matter here. We'll just run through it now and we're gonna set them again. Let's just call this extended props. We're just gonna do this. What happens the first run is that it actually creates the signal, and then on the use effect, it goes through and it calls the signals to set the value again. But that's not a problem, because signals, they won't trigger if the value is the same. So that's fine. And then if we update the value, it will reconcile through. In this case, we have this count that we're reusing, exposing again, which is, I'm not even sure if that's even a scenario. But it reconciles through with its current state. And then on the use effect, we change the signal to this new initial count, which will trigger the signal and then update the component that was interested in it. And that's fine, because we're not firing like a bunch of reconciliation. This is the power of signals. It only goes and changes the thing that it's supposed to change. Let's see if it even works. Oh. What the hell? What the hell did I do? Prop signals, use ref. If no prop signals current is an object. Why does it say it's not a function? What did I do? It's almost like it doesn't say. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Okay, so now we increase 3 with change, and now it changes without errors. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then you're able to and it's based on the same logic as React. So if the actual property changes, it will create an observation or trigger an observation. And now you are able to, if I didn't want to expose, like if I didn't want to handle the change in the initial count, like typically I would just do this, right? But then if I want to actually react to changes to this count, I could do this instead. And that is like re-exposing it. And maybe I didn't even want to do that. Maybe I want to do if props count is more than 5. I want to alert. What? Right? You can do whatever you want here, whatever makes sense. But the point is you have the possibility to observe changes to props. I like this. I think this makes a lot of sense, and we should include it before release because it's a breaking change, as the props are actually signals. Of course, now my presentation is wrong, but I think that's fine for now. I can just change the template. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna keep that as is for now, and I'm gonna reflect a little bit on it in case something pops up, and then we're gonna look at something else. We're gonna look at Angular, and we're gonna look at it's pretty insane. Wow. So, it's so slow. Well, I guess it's because it needs a full-on web container. But yeah, Angular is a freaking beast. Anyways, I was looking for signals. So I wonder why they chose this. Why they didn't just make it possible to call the count. It's interesting. But you're able to RxJS interrupt. This is what I'm wondering. So you can say to signal on an observable. The problem is I haven't worked with observables that much. And there's a problem because there's like we can do the same thing as here. We could say signal and give it an initial value. I wonder what these options. Initial values. Undefined. Yeah, it's like, you see this? If we're gonna have first class support for observables in the signals, like it would need to really understand it. Oh yeah, no, this is RxJS observables are, and I think they can quite easily be what happened? Wait, what happened? Oh, I removed the thing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's just RxJS. Like you have these different subjects, and it's like it's such a complicated thing. And at the end of the day, like it's so easy to include it because you can. So does subscribe, how do you unsubscribe? Where's the disposer? Does it return a disposer? Subscribe, disposing, creating observables, disposing observable functions. Yeah, it's subscription.unsubscribe. So it's like if you were going to use these observables in impact, you would have like some observable blah blah and then you would and then you would do something like clean up observables, subscribe, and unsubscribe. Something like that. And if you wanted that to be like exposed, what you would do is you would just put it. So if you want, maybe this was an observable of some numbers, you would just pass count as a signal here, and you would just update it manually. Yeah, I don't think it makes sense to have first class support for it. Promises is different because it's so fundamental to what you're doing, and there isn't like any way to like observe promises in the sense that it's the same instance. You can't like change the promise when it changes its state, while observables, they already have they are emitting values, right? It's something else. It's like an event emitter. And you do this. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. So an observable is really an event emitter, and already you're using like cleanup, API, subscribe, something, and then count, right? So and there shouldn't be any difference. Okay, but this props thing is very interesting. I think we should try it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think we should just ship it. So the only thing we're doing is that the store provider keeps a ref where we create a signal, and then whenever this is reconciled, we go through it, and then we update the props. Now the only thing here is if you were to, the only problem is if you were to do something like this. Foo bar. But again, if you were to do some, because then this object changes every time, right? So it would actually trigger the signal every time. But even here, it's not a problem, because if you have a config, you wouldn't like use an effect on that. Well, maybe you would. But I think that's just something we need to describe. Like typically you're getting an object that's not defined like this. That is like recreated. This is the same problem for anything in React. So yeah, I think we should try it. We can run with it before release and then just change it back if it's a big issue. And let's do like a semi-major. And let's see what we're gonna do with the docs. So we can stop this one, and then we can say yarn dev docs dev. Oh, what's happening here? Why isn't this running? Oh, there we go. That's weird. Okay, learn blah 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 store. Yeah, so we need to change scoping. Learn scoping. Maybe we should change this to I think we're going to change this back to reactive context. Maybe. The story is in stashed with the when the provider mounts, and any cleanup is called. Yeah, so one thing I always forget is that we need to change the playground version. And again here we should just say, just to follow the guidelines, and let's call it props count. Or we can still call it initial count there. Cool. That's really the only change. Create scopes or window processor can receive. Okay, I don't think that can receive props as signals from React to initialize itself. Receiving props from React is especially useful to take advantage of modern React async patterns. The feature also allows you to bind store to state, for example, a store that provides. Okay, I think that's fine. I'm not actually sure if I'm not using props anywhere else here. No, effects. Signal. No. So it will be more here, I guess. Advanced. Define store much like a component, only returning state instead of UI. State management. Returning an API to interact with state management instead of UI. Return signals using getters. This makes them read-only and triggers observation when consumed, blah, blah, blah. Define in the private function after a return statement. I really like that pattern. Blah, blah, blah. Create counter. Yeah, so here we have to make sure we do this. We have to fix this one. Consuming stores in React. Fine. Blah, blah, blah. Signal of user. Props of user. And so this one is interesting, right? We're getting the user from React. So in this case, what does that mean? You could call it like initial user. Because what we're doing here is that we are, do we have it here? So we are just getting the user from the session. It's very interesting. So now, yeah, because we're kind of, so in this scenario, does the session, this is the question, right? So we have a session that's we have a session with a user. Now the question is, if this user changes, like it depends on the implementation, right? But as an example, here in the session store, we have a session, it's pending or rejected, or when it's resolved, we have a user. Does the session store update the session when the user changes? I think it should. And it also gives us the opportunity to actually drop this one and rather say effect where we rather say user props.user, and then we can rather comment. So the point of this is that in this implementation, when the user changes, this session also changes. This session user also changes. That's the point. And then in the App Store provider, we're passing in the user. User.id should be the key. We use the ID of the user to identify unique state management for that user. So this is very interesting. So we're handling a lot of complexity here. So we are waiting for the initial user. And when we have that initial user, we mount the App Store provider and we key it on the user ID. So if for any reason the ID of the user changes, it means I should completely unmount the app and mount it again with that new user. But if not, it's passing in the new user, right? It will be if this reconciles for some other reason, that user will always be the same. There's no signal firing inside the store or anything. But if this user value actually changes, then it will trigger this effect. Yeah. The session user can change. We simply subscribe, we simply react to that signal. Huh. Yeah, this is really fascinating. This is like, and we're trying to create a bridge between reconciling React with its reconciler and Impact with its observable signals. And how do you bridge that gap? One thing we know, there's no mutation, so all values are unique on both sides. That's a common thing. But what we want to make sure is that when we pass something from React into Impact, we want it to become a signal. And when we expose something from Impact to React, we don't want it to be a signal anymore. We want it to just be the value. Which is why we have the getters. So we always operate with the values, not the signals themselves. And I think that's a nice mental model. It's like, that is the bridge. So when a value travels across the bridge from React to Impact, it becomes a signal of a value on the other side. And then when it travels back as a signal to React, it's just a plain value again. It does make a lot of sense. To that change and update our user. Now, so what we could do here instead, like in this case, I'm actually not, you know what, we don't even need to do this. We could just do this because I'm not using the user for anything here. But let's do something else that actually requires the user. So so what we'll do here is API subscribe user notifications. User dot user.id, and then notifications. Notifications equals signal. Get notifications, return notifications. So it's a bit more verbose. So what we could also so what we could also do, yeah, I think we need to think about this before releasing it, because there is a different way to handle this, and that is to basically just allow you to you can basically just do this, and now we don't have to fix that typing. We're explicitly saying we want this to be a signal. Now, what we do internally instead now, so it will, like every time this component reconciles, it will create a new signal, right? But what we can do internally in the store provider instead, and this wouldn't be a breaking change. What we can do instead is that internally it will Oh, I think I'm just gonna think about this instead. There's some parts to this that makes a lot of sense, but as I'm writing the documentation here, there's something like just writing this. There's something like there's something much smoother about just doing props user. Yeah, and as I also mentioned in the comment, like this wasn't a concrete suggestion. It was an idea I got from feedback. Is that, well, if that incoming prop changes, you should rather subscribe to the source of change. So you take it as an initial value, and then just like we did here, we subscribe to user updates from the API instead of relying on this. Yeah, no, I have to think about it. But yeah, I think that's it for now. We're gonna sleep on this one. And then we'll see if we make that change. Currently, I am leaning towards not doing it. And then rather allow you to do something like this. If you want that to be a signal, you can just make it the signal. Or like I've even seen, like you can even use I really don't like this, but you can even use conventions like this, where hey, I want this to be observable. But yeah, because I think the example from the feedback was like I'm passing this search query from React no, not search query, URL from React router or something. But you can always access the router inside your store and subscribe to those query changes. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. I have to think about it. I have to reflect. I have to think. Okay, bye for now.